Hi, today we're going to talk about random sampling versus random assignment in the context of randomized control trials. Random sampling looks at your study sample, and it ensures that your study sample is representative of the whole population that you are studying. It's used when you want to measure the characteristics of a particular group, and you would measure a random sample from the group. This is used in randomized evaluations often to select a sample, but doesn't need to be exclusively used in randomized evaluations. Random assignment, on the other hand, relates to treatment and control groups, and it ensures that the treatment and control groups are on average similar on background characteristics. And this could relate to two or more comparable groups, and it forms the basis of the randomized evaluation, and it's what allows you to say that the evaluation you're doing is randomized. So in the context of setting up a randomized evaluation, you have the total population that in the area you're looking at, and within that you decide on a target population to study. Once you have a target population, you use random sampling to come up with a sample that you are going to evaluate. So this sample is representative of your total population because you've sampled from them randomly. And then once you have your evaluation sample, you randomly assign individuals or units within the evaluation sample to two groups at least. The treatment and control groups, you need to have at least one control group or two comparison groups and a treatment group. And once you have a treatment group and a control group, you can then optionally randomly sample again if you only are treating a few within each group. So to visually understand it, if this is your entire area of interest, you can randomly sample these yellow items from within the entire area of interest, the area of interest being your target population, and the yellow squares being your sample, your study sample. Now adding on random assignment, so once you have your sample, you randomly assign those units to treatment and control groups. So in this instance here, you can see that the red is the treatment and the blue is the control groups, and you've randomly assigned which ones are going to be in the treatment group and which ones are going to be in the control group. Now once you have these units randomly assigned to treatment and control, you can optionally then further sample from within the treatment and control groups and only treat a specific proportion of people within those groups. So that would be these black dots here. So suppose you're only treating a couple units within each treatment and control group. So to do this with an example, I'm going to use the classic example of the randomized control trial of deworming in Kenya. And so we're going to look at what that might have looked like. It's not entirely what happened in the study, but we're going to use it to illustrate this concept. So for random sampling, so the area of interest we're looking at would be schools in Kenya. And we want to sample particular schools to introduce the evaluation. So to introduce this intervention of deworming pills. And so we'd like to sample only some schools, but we want those schools to still be representative of the whole population of schools, and therefore we would randomly select them. And this would help us ensure that the background characteristics of the schools that we choose to treat and to compare with are on average similar to the background characteristics of the rest of the schools in Kenya. Now moving on to random assignment. So once we have our schools that we've selected to be part of the evaluation, to enroll in the evaluation, we would randomly assign between those schools some to the treatment group and some to the control group. So this is the difference between random sampling and random assignment. Here you're assigning the schools that you've already sampled into those that will receive the deworming pills and those that won't, those that you'll compare to. Now you could, again, further, as is done in most studies with large units, you have units that are schools here. You could then further randomly sample from within those schools. So if you have treatment schools, these ones in red here, you could then say we are only giving deworming pills to a random sample of students within that school. And likewise, we will compare and measure the outcomes of a random sample of students from within the control groups. You might do this for a number of reasons. It could be cost related, but also you want to make sure that you have sampled enough for your students to be representative of the whole population, so you can say with statistical significance that they are representative of the rest of the students in that school.